Hi AGP students, Morgan Pesic here, your SAT reading and writing guru. In today's video we're talking about the writing portion of the SAT, and more specifically we are talking about improving paragraphs. By the end of today's video, I hope you will be able to say I can understand what improving paragraph questions are, the strategies I should use to answer improving paragraph questions, and the specific question types of improving paragraph questions. So first, what are improving paragraph or IP questions? These are questions that test your ability or your skills in writing and revision, more specifically your ability to combine and delete sentences and to alter structures within sentences. Though you may not realize it, that's the process that you go through when you edit and revise your own essays until they're final. There are only 6 IP questions total, so it's 9% of the writing portion. Okay, and as always, I want you to be familiar with the test instructions so you don't have to waste any of your time on test day reading them. And these are the instructions for IP questions. The following passage is an early draft of an essay. Some parts of the passage need to be rewritten. Read the passage and select the best answers for the questions that follow. Some questions are about particular sentences or parts of sentences and ask you to improve sentence structure or word choice. Other questions ask you to consider organization and development. In choosing answers, follow the requirements of standard written English. Okay, so some are going to ask you about sentences or parts of sentences, and you have to improve the structure or the word choice in the sentence. Others are going to ask you to think about organization and development. Okay, next up, what strategies should you be using to answer IP questions? First, read and mark the essay thoroughly to determine its overall meaning before you look at the questions. It's important to have a sense of the entire essay's organization and meaning before you deal with any changes. The essay is meant to be a draft, so there will be errors in it, but don't linger over them. Just kind of either circle or underline sentences that sound awkward to you or look out of place. Okay, next up, read more slowly than you usually do to help you pay closer attention. Read the questions and find the context clues. In the paragraph, search for the contextual clues that are either before or after the sentence that you're trying to improve. Make sure the verb tenses and subjects all agree with one another. The questions will progress from beginning to end, so they're not going to go in order of difficulty. They're going to go in order of like the essay passage, lines 1 through 2, or sentences 3 and 4. I mean, it's not lines, it's sentences this time, but they go in order of the sentence or the order of the paragraphs. Questions are typically rated moderate to difficult. There really are not easy questions in this section because IP is kind of like the summation of everything that you've been doing in writing. So if, given that there's such a small number and that they're difficult, save these questions until the very end, which is helpful because they come at the very end of each of the writing sections. Okay, try all of the options before you decide on an answer. So the directions tell you to choose the best answer. That means one might be okay, but not as good as another, so don't overlook any possibilities. Remember that shorter is better. If you're between 2 choices, go with the more concise response. Make sure that your answer about a particular sentence or sentences makes sense in the context of the preceding and following sentences and of the passage as a whole. Just make sure that when you're changing something or adding something that it still works with the context of the sentences around it and the passage. Use your test booklet to help you by marking each question that you don't answer so that if you do have time you can go back and easily find it. And then this is a test. So like I said, the improving paragraphs questions is like a cumulative test or a summation of the previous 2 sections, identifying sentence errors and improving sentences. This is like bringing it all together. And it tests your ability to write an effective essay, but just in a different way than the first section of the test where you actually write an essay. Okay, next we're going to be talking about specific question types. The first and most common is sentence revision. It asks you to change or improve either an entire sentence or a portion of one. And these questions ask you to either add a word to clarify the meaning of a particular sentence or to choose a multiple choice answer revising a flawed phrase. Okay, next most common is sentence addition or deletion, where they ask you to either add or remove a sentence or a phrase in the passage to create a smoother transition or to clarify meaning. So these questions require you to take into account the meaning of the overall passage and how the paragraphs transition into or relate to one another. Then we have sentence combination. These questions will provide you with two sentences and ask you to join them in the best way, so make sure that you utilize your improving sentences skills pertaining to conjunctions, both coordinating and subordinating. And lastly, we have essay analysis, which requires you to take a deeper, more critical look at the essay. They ask you to pick the sentence that best sums up the essay, or maybe identify how a particular sentence functions within the essay as a whole. These questions test your overall understanding of the mechanics of essays. Okay, now we're going to look at an example. First, I have to share with you the passage, which is 3 paragraphs, so 1 paragraph per slide, and then we're going to look at example questions. So this is a draft of an essay. We will find errors in it. My father has an exceptional talent, the ability to understand people. I'm going to underline that because I feel like those could be combined. When I have a problem that I think no one else will answer, I take it to my father. He listens intently, asks me some questions, and my feelings are seemingly known by him exactly. I'm going to underline that part, and my feelings are seemingly known by him exactly. That sounds off. Even my twin sister can talk to him more easily than to me. Many people seem too busy to take the time to understand one another. My father, by all accounts, sees taking time to listen as essential to any relationship, whether it involves family, friendship, or work. At work, my father's friends and work associates benefit from this talent. His job requires him to attend social events, and sometimes I go along. I have watched him at dinner. His eyes are fixed on whoever is speaking, and he nods his head at every remark. My father emerges from such a conversation with what I believe is a true sense of the speaker's meaning. In the same way, we choose our friends. That sentence sounds out of place, so I'm going to just underline that. My father's ability to listen affects his whole life. His ability allows him to form strong relationships with his coworkers and earns him lasting friendships. It allows him to have open conversations with his children. Furthermore, it has strengthened his relationship with my mother. We haven't talked about the mom before. It kind of seems weird to bring it up in the last paragraph, so I'm just going to underline that just in case. Certainly his talent is one that I hope to develop as I mature. Okay, now let's look at our first example question. Of the following, which is the best way to revise and combine sentences 1 and 2, which is reproduced below? So we have a sentence combination question. These are the sentences we have to combine. My father has an exceptional talent, the ability to understand people. Oh, we underlined that. Good catch. Okay, so let's look at our answer choices. Answer choice A, my father has an exceptional talent and the ability to understand people. This doesn't work because the passage suggests that the father's ability or talent is his ability to understand people. They're not two separate things. So this conjunction and makes this not a good answer. Option B says, my father has an exceptional talent that includes the ability to understand people. This doesn't work because, as the passage shows, the father's talent does not include his ability to understand people. It is his ability to understand people. So B is out. C, my father has an exceptional talent, the ability to understand people. Okay, so the passage shows that the father's exceptional talent is his ability to understand people, and because sentence 2 is a fragment, sentences 1 and 2 have to be combined, and the use of the colon to join them corrects the error of the original and signifies that the father's talent is his ability to understand people. So C sounds good. Let's look at D and E just to be sure. My father has an exceptional talent. It is his ability to understand people. This doesn't work because you joined two independent thoughts with only a comma, and that's called a comma splice. It's incorrect. Lastly, E. Despite my father's exceptional talent, he still has the ability to understand people. This doesn't work because it contrasts the father's talent with his ability when in fact the passage shows that they are the same thing. So yes, C was the correct answer. Using the colon, we now fix the problem. We combine the sentences because sentence 2 is technically a fragment, and we also are conveying the thought of the passage, which is this is his talent, the ability to understand people. Okay, next question. Of the following, which is the best way to phrase sentence 4, which is reproduced below? So this is a sentence revision question. Here's sentence 4. He listens intently, asks me some questions, and my feelings are seemingly known by him exactly. Another part that we underlined. We're getting good at this. Okay, so since we underlined it, we already know that something's wrong, so we're going to eliminate A. It's not right as it is now. Let's look at our other answer choices. B. Listening intently, he will ask me some questions, and my exact feelings are seemingly known to him. This doesn't work. It has an awkward shift from the subject of the sentence, from the father to the child's feelings. We want to keep the subject the same for parallelism, so B's out. C. As he listens to me and asks me some questions, he seems to be knowing exactly my feelings. This doesn't work because there's an use of an improper verb form. To know, we would want to use instead of to be knowing. To be knowing doesn't make sense. He seems to know. So C's out. D. He listened to me and asked me some questions, seeming to know exactly how I felt. D doesn't work because the sentence switches to the past tense. The context suggests that these are habitual, ongoing actions that require the present tense. So we don't want listened in the past. Okay, and that leaves us with E. He listens intently, asks me some questions, and then seems to know exactly how I feel. So this works for the parallel construction. We want to have everything done by the father, and we want to keep it all in the active voice, and that's what this does. So E is our correct answer. Okay, next question. Which of the following sentences should be omitted to improve the unity of the second paragraph? And before we can look at those, we need to look at the second paragraph again. So now we're looking, this is a sentence addition or deletion. We're looking to delete one of the sentences that just doesn't make sense with the rest of the ideas in the second paragraph. Oh look, we already have something underlined. Oh, and that's what we said. In the same way we choose our friends. It seemed off, seemed out of place. So look, our note-taking has saved us some time here. It's going to be sentence 12. Okay, and then lastly, a strategy that the writer uses within the third paragraph is to. This is an example of essay analysis, so we have to think about how something functions. We're looking for a strategy that he uses within the third paragraph. Let's look at the third paragraph again. My father's ability to listen affects his whole life. His ability allows him to form strong relationships with his coworkers and earns him lasting friendships. It allows him to have open conversations with his children. Furthermore, it has strengthened his relationship with my mother. Certainly his talent is one that I hope to develop as I mature. Now we can look at our answer choices. A says, make false assumptions and use exaggerations. Okay, well, that's not happening here. It has nothing to do about this paragraph. It's not exaggerated or shown to be false, so A's out. B, include difficult vocabulary. There is no evidence that the vocabulary in this third paragraph is particularly difficult. I read it with great ease. No problem there. C, repeats certain words and sentence patterns. Yes, he emphasizes the point that his father ability has benefited him in many different relationships, friends, coworkers, children, spouse, and he's using parallel structure in sentences 14, 15, and 16. He also repeats the words ability and allows and uses the same subject for each sentence in the paragraph. So yes, C does sound good. Let's consider D and E just to make sure. D, argue in a tone of defiance. No, the tone is not defiant, so that's out. E, turn aside from the main subject. While I did have that one sentence that I thought was kind of off, like that he's talking about the mom in this paragraph, which he never talked about before. First of all, it's not really a strategy. And secondly, it's not as strong as our answer C. Repeat certain words and sentence patterns. Well, that about wraps this video up. I hope now you're saying I can understand what IP questions are, the strategies I should use to answer IP questions, and the specific question types for improving paragraphs questions. If you noticed when we went through our example in the video, we hit one of each of the 4 different types of questions, and I did that intentionally. I wanted you to see what each one looked like. And also, we're now at a point where we don't have any lecture to do when we get to class. We are just going to be working through problems and getting practice. I'll see you then.